why are you going back to Cambodia? Why Cambodia? Why not stay in Australia? Every time I came, I didn't feel like I fit in. Trying to explain who I was hard. I was born in 1990, so during that time there was a bit of racism towards different colours. Every time I'd come to Australia, I'd fit in a little bit, then I'd go back to Cambodia and I'd try to fit in and get obsessed with the culture, figuring out, who am I? And this is not the Cambodia that I saw when I was younger. This is not the Cambodia that my mum was telling me about. The people here, I feel like you're more alive here. Even for my husband, if he can just say "Sostay" or "Okun," they brighten up. Our neighbours were laughing at us because they go, "You're locking the doors?" And we said, "Oh yeah, you don't need to lock our doors." Oh, the driving here, if they cut you off, there's no beeping. You just let them go. I thought it would be difficult because the only paperwork we have was the refugee papers, but they said that's enough. After losing my dad, I just wanted to know more about where I came from. I go and visit. For me, it still reminds me of my dad.
Meet Linda, a Cambodian who was born and raised in Australia. After 35 years, she decided to revisit and connect with her roots. Linda shares why she feels more connected to her roots now compared to her first visit, why she was scared to visit Cambodia before, how Cambodia has changed, how Cambodian people welcomed her, and her Cambodian citizenship process.
It was a big shock coming back. But when we came back, we thought, this is not the Cambodia that I saw when I was younger. This is not the Cambodia that my mum was telling me about, because she's still quite stressed about me coming to Cambodia. It just opened up a lot for us in a different perspective. From my mother's point of view, she was worried about the safety, about being a foreigner coming back, being a female coming back to this country. She's quite traumatized, so it's a lot about, is it safe? Are you going to be okay there? And she's worked so hard in Australia for us to have education, to have great jobs. Her perspective is, why are you going back to Cambodia? Why Cambodia? Why not stay in Australia? So till this day, I spoke to her today, she said the same thing, come back to Australia. But I think, the reason why we're here is just to connect with our family, and we don't know where we're going to end up, but being here for the last 2 months has changed our life more than the last 10 years.
Well, what was her most concerned, like something that she's most concerned of, when you tell her that you're going to stay in Cambodia for 2 months or
Well, I didn't actually tell her that I was staying for that long, so there's a lot of white lies I have to say to my parents to get ahead or to do better. But we said we're going on a little trip for a month. And then it just extended from there. I just said, this is great. My husband's learning the culture, he's learning Khmer. But her worry is, oh, your husband's going to be unhappy, he doesn't want to be there. But, I have to give him the phone, and he's the one trying to convince her that, no, this is fine, this is safe. Till this day, she's still worried, but...
is there anything specifically that she really warned you about? Oh, you have to be careful with this, you have to be careful with this.
Yeah.
And coming here, what do you see,
I think her worry was just the people. Be careful if you're a foreigner. Don't be too out there and try to stay under the radar. But ever since we've stepped foot in Cambodia, it's just been the friendliest people. We go to places that are very safe.
Is it your first time in Cambodia?
Not my first time. I came on a lot of family trips with my family, but it was more to visit the village and where my parents were from. So my experience of Cambodia was just to visit family, not really to explore. and I was quite young. So the last time I came was maybe 15. But being born as an Australian, I didn't understand the culture. So it was it was a big struggle. Every time I came, I didn't feel like I fit in. So yeah, more like I was forced to come with my family. Yeah.
What was it like growing up as a Khmer in Australia?
As I was growing up, it was confusing. So I knew at home I was Khmer, but at school maybe there was one or two other Khmers there as well, but very rarely. I didn't even know what Cambodian was. I remember going, where is Cambodia? If people asked, where are you from? Said, I think it's Cambodia. So it was really confusing. I think I was brought up so Western in the society of school, trying to fit in, and then at home I had to be really Khmer. So yeah, I think growing up was quite confusing for me with the in-between cultures. Yeah.
Yeah. At what point did you start asking questions, like asking your mom, your parents questions about where do you really belong?
Oh, they always told me I was Khmer, but I think understanding why are there not many other Khmers around, or I don't understand why they even came to Australia. Or we also stayed in an area that wasn't predominantly Cambodian. So there's in Adelaide, where I was from, we weren't in the same area as all the other Khmers. So it was hard for me to connect with other Khmers. But I mean, my dad still had working with Khmers, and we'd had gatherings and parties, but then I didn't feel very Khmer enough because my school was all very Western. Yeah, it was quite interesting.
Was it a time that you struggled to fit in into the Western culture?
Oh, definitely. Yeah. I think trying to explain who I was hard, especially in Australia. I was born in 1990, so during that time there was a lot of, I mean, I love Australia, but there was a bit of racism towards like different colors. So for me, I thought, to me, I don't even look at the color that I was. I was like, I'm just the same as any other child. But yeah, I think I've battled a lot of that, trying to fit into that world. And then I'll go to Cambodia and try to fit into that world. But I was a bit bigger than the other kids in Cambodia. It wasn't that slim build. So I struggled back and forth because I think my parents would take me every 5 or 6 years whenever they could. So every time I'd come to Australia, I'd fit in a little bit. Then I'd go back to Cambodia and I'd try to fit in and get obsessed with the culture. But then I'd come back, and it was just an ongoing battle with figuring out, who am I, and how do you be Khmer enough, or are you, Western enough? Yeah.
So would you say, compared to your move now to Cambodia, what is the changes that you've noticed?
I think
You still feel like I'm still in between?
I think I've accepted, or I know I've accepted that point now. It's just, this is my life as a child that it was born in another country, and that I just have to accept it and just be proud of what I am and who I am. And I'm still learning. I'm continuing to learn the language, even when I stuff up or say the wrong words. But I just have that acceptance in myself that what's the point of being worried about it? Not everyone's the same, and I can't just keep thinking that worry and that trauma. So yeah, I think I'm learning a lot, and learning to accept failures, and learning that I'm continuing to grow. So I don't have to fit that mold that I thought I had to when I was growing up.
What is it like growing up in a Khmer family in Australia? Do you guys do more of Khmer traditions, Khmer praying,
We went
food?
to the temples a lot, but even as I was growing up, I think my parents would show me, but I wouldn't explain. So the explanation wasn't there why we were doing these certain things. But I'd remember going to the temples for New Year's. As we were growing up, there was a big culture, but as we got older, it died out a little bit, or a lot. When I married Gabriel, we had a Khmer wedding, so we had a 3-day wedding. But even then, I think we were the last to have that wedding like that for our families. It just doesn't happen anymore. And a lot of people are losing that culture or, yeah. So at least we did that for our families, but I don't regret that.
Back home, you guys you eat Khmer food.
I stayed at home till I was about 23, I think. But we would have pots of food my mum would make, just all Khmer. She would try to make some westernized food, but still, if she makes pasta, she'll still put fish sauce and soy sauce in. But yeah, we grew up with a lot of Khmer food. But when I moved out, mum would make, maybe on the weekends, she would make something for us to all go over. Yeah, but now that we've moved out, she doesn't make it as much. So now we're missing that food that we took for granted as kids.
Do people notice you speak Khmer? I don't know how good is your Khmer because my Khmer is also bad. So I saw your video, most of your video. You talk to the waiters, the waitress. You know, you speak Khmer. But I saw one of the comment section. I saw one guy say that your Khmer is not really that good. So that is why I said, oh, maybe people we can understand that your Khmer is not really full Khmer. So do people really mistake you, like in real life, not in comment section? Do people really get that you are not fully Khmer do by the way you
Yeah,
speak?
so when I speak, I'll start speaking just normal Khmer, but then there are words where I'll stumble. So I'll speak to them for maybe 5 minutes and then they'll say something and I don't understand. And then, or I'll say a word that it just isn't in the right context and they go, hey, wait a minute. Are you full Khmer? Are you half Khmer? Are you from another country? So then I explain to them that I'm actually born in Australia. And yeah, and then the Khmer that I've learned was from speaking to my parents, my grandparents, and going to Khmer school about 2 hours a week every Saturday. So yeah, it's getting better as I speak to other Khmers, but because I never had the opportunity to speak much, that's why I felt really embarrassed to speak when I first came to Cambodia. But just being here for a longer period of time, it just felt comfortable if I fail or if I make a mistake because I've learnt so much already.
In total, you've been here for 2 months now
Yeah, in Cypriot.
in summary. How has your perspectives changed, about Cambodia? Like what you heard about Cambodia and coming to Cambodia, being here for 2 months now. How has it changed?
Well, I actually started about 7 months in Thailand because that's where my dad worked a lot in Thailand as well, just to connect with Asian culture. And then it was only until we came to visit Cambodia just before Khmer New Year. The reason why I didn't come straight here was because my mum was scaring me about the fact that, it's dangerous. So all in my head, I thought, oh, this is very dangerous. I shouldn't go to Cambodia, but I'll go close. I'll go to Thailand. After our trip to Siem Reap before New Year's, it just changed our full perspective of how safe it was, how accommodating people were, how my language wasn't that bad, and just how much more we connected there. And I felt more at home than I have ever in the last few years.
Do you guys, like your family, do they have like hometown here?
Yeah, so where we're from, so Breveng, so that's the cat. I've only just learnt the difference between places. And my family is more in the Pum area, so a bit more of the countryside. I go and visit there, but it's still quite, for me, it still reminds me of my dad.
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. Yeah, but we can skip it.
Yeah, so we plan to go and visit more and just get used to it, but it's hard.
You've been here for 2 months now. Do you see yourself, living here permanently?
Yeah, we. It's hard to. It's hard to leave. It really is. It's hard to think about going back to that Western society. And I mean, I had a great job, full time, great perks and, very rewarding, but it's the lifestyle and the people here. I feel like you're more alive here. You spend your time differently instead of, you still have work, but I feel like over there it's always something after another. There's no rest. Whereas here you can go out at night and then have a lifestyle after work. If you do work 9 to 5, you can still go out and get something to eat with people. You don't have to spend too much money as well. I feel like in Australia we were just saving and saving, but would never have time free. There's always something to buy, or there's always something to compete with someone else to buy the finer things. And now it's just like we have the basic necessities, we have minimal things, and we are so happy. It's the happiness that's really different here for us.
Is there any like the Western misconceptions about Cambodia that you think this is not real?
I think for me, the biggest thing was the safety, and Cambodia being what it was known for even 10 years ago. Well, I came here when I was 15 and I thought, well, I don't want to live in Cambodia. It's uncomfortable. There's nothing to do. But now you walk to any area, there's a cafe or there's, a pizza place that you can sit down and have pizza, and there's parks developing, there's different, I feel like it's not as scary as what I thought it was, or how my mum pictured it to be. And as a female as well, there was a lot of stories about, when I was growing up, there was a lot of stories about foreign children getting kidnapped and things like that. But there's that in every country, but here I feel that you just go and there's so many safe areas. Yeah, so I think safety was the biggest thing, especially growing up in a Western world where my parents fled for us to be safe. Yeah, it's very surprising how safe it is here. Everyone's been so welcoming. The fact that even for my husband, if he can just say "sosday" or "okun," they brighten up. There's so much patience here. That's another big thing. There's so much patience. Even just driving, or even just strangers you meet. If we have a problem or we're lost, they will just help you. And they don't want anything. We tip them here and there, but they don't even want the tips. They just are so thankful, and it teaches us a lot to not need so much and not expect so much. When look at how these people work and how happy they are. Yeah, it's changed. I think that's the biggest thing for me. It's just happiness.
What would be your advice to, maybe if you should advise other Khmer American, Khmer Australia, or Khmer abroad that, still have the same fear that you have before? So if you should advise them, what would be your advice?
It's not as scary as we think it is. And even if you don't know Khmer, the fact that you're coming back as a Khmer child, as a diaspora child, coming back, they are so welcoming. I think one big eye-opening moment was when I went to the immigration counter, and all I said to start off was "Soslay om" or "Chobrim so om." And from then they were just excited to ask about my story, where I was from, and yeah, they helped me get my visa as a Khmer child as well. And from then I thought, wow, they want me to come back. They're happy for me to come back. I'm not a strange alien, I'm not a foreigner. I'm surprised with how much it's developed, from what I remember as a child and from the stories my mom would say. And I think this generation, from listening to other children that have not left Cambodia and that are my age, I've asked them about their experience, and they've said it's changed so much. The generation are really trying to change Cambodia, from musicians to artists to professionals. They are all making a change, and I think that's what's kept me going, telling my story. Is it's our generation that are really making a difference, and having a network of people has really helped me to continue to share and open up. So I think for me, a big surprise that this generation now is really trying to change Cambodia and that misconception of what Cambodia was.
No, you've been to Thailand, you've been to Vietnam as well, and I think you spent like 1 week in each country, right?
Thailand, we did almost 7 months. I can't remember, but I did
Sorry, 7 months?
yeah.
That's long.
But I regret not coming here earlier. If I knew that Cambodia was this safe, um, we say all the time, we said, if we only knew that Cambodia was this safe, we would have come here first. But it was that fear and the misconception of this country being so underdeveloped, and from what we hear and what people say, that's why we didn't come earlier. But as soon as we stepped foot into Cambodia, from the moment we stepped foot at the airport, it was a different perspective. It really changed.
Okay, what do you think is different from Cambodia to these two countries that you've been to?
I find they're quite different in all areas. But what I love about Cambodia is they've kept the culture. They've strengthened a lot, but the culture, the traditions are still there. The love for family is still there. And for me personally, I can speak the language and make a difference and connect with people. Um, but Thailand, my family spent 10 years, my parents spent 10 years, and that's where my brothers were born during the camps that when they fled Cambodia to Thailand. So I still have a connection with Thailand, but I feel like Cambodia has the culture there, rich culture is still there in this country.
How expensive do you think it is here
Compared to
compared to where you have been? You've been to Greece, right? You've been to Greece. Yeah, yeah, you've been to Thailand, Vietnam. Okay, compared to Cambodia.
I feel like in Cambodia, it depends. It really, you could come here and spend a lot because there's a market for that. You can come here backpacking and live absolutely fine. I would say we're in between, so we like to budget as well, but the money just goes so far here that you eat simply, like you eat quite simple food, but you can go and have a pizza as well and spend. I think here it's comfortable for everyone. It's not just for backpackers, or it's not just for people who have lots of money. I feel like Cambodia can cater to all different um, price ranges. I think in Thailand it was getting quite expensive as well. So I think our rent, we were just on the beach side, our rent was about 950 Australian dollars a month. Here, we're just 5 minutes from Siem Reap. Oh, sorry, 5 or 10 minutes from Siem Reap, and it's 250 a month. So you can, yeah, you can budget or you can spend well here. That's what I love about this country.
You know, you've said a lot of good things about Cambodia. Like people said, it cannot be always a sunshines and rainbows, you know. So is there any part that was really difficult for you to adjust to, or something that you struggled to adjust to when you arrived to Cambodia, or something that you are still like finding it difficult to, accept or adjust to?
Um, I'm not sure. I mean, trying to, I'm still trying to understand the language a lot more. So I've overcome the fear of making mistakes, but I think I still have that little fear of judgment of, coming to Phnom Penh as well. Their dialect is quite fast as well. I feel the adults are more accepting because I understand, but I think the younger generation, if I speak or say something rude, they might think I'm offending them, or so that's probably the only thing. But once I share my story, they're just like, oh, okay, you're not born here. So
And also with your tattoos as well.
Yeah.
Did you feel like they judge you somehow?
I do. My mum hates it, so my mum would not like any of that on me. But I think I'm just a bit of a daredevil in that sense. I don't worry about it. It's my creative art on myself. So it is not a normal thing to see. From Cambodians' point of view, you know, I go back to the village and I get stared at, but I'm not a bad person. I'm not anyone that's going to hurt anyone. So I get used to just ignoring that. But then you get your very friendly ones that would say, wow, you know, that's beautiful. But yeah, I've just learned not to worry about that. Yeah. But it's not a normal sense. It's not something that is normal growing up as a Cambodian. But yeah, I think I'm a bit of a daredevil in that sense.
For me, you look like Khmer, like 100% Cambodian. But the people mistake you like, oh, are you Khmer? Without you speaking. Because I know when you speak, they can tell. But without you speaking, do they like mistake you? Are you Khmer?
They do. When I lived in Thailand, they all thought I was just a Thai girl. So yeah, so I learned how to say "my day gone Thai." So I learned the sentence to say that. I learned to say "gone Kampuchea," explaining that situation. But I think they're very similar in looks. Um, a lot of people, when I go to the village, they'll just say, "Oh, you're half," or "you're born in America," or they can just tell. But when I'm in the main cities, they just think I'm Khmer if I just continue speaking Khmer until I fumble. Yeah.
Okay, any specific reason why you decided to take this journey, coming to reconnect with your roots?
I think after losing my dad, I just wanted to know more about where I came from and just feeling very disconnected. Uh, yeah, so it was really that moment where I thought, you know what, life is too short. I really have to find out who I am, what I want to do with my life, and I think that's been the best thing for me.
Do you have a siblings?
I have five, yeah, yeah. So I have three that were born during the refugee camps during those years. I was born the second year that my parents came to Australia. And then I've got two other little brothers that were born after.
Are you the strongest one, like the one, the one that take the boat step to Cambodia, or do you have other siblings that is like you, trying to reconnect with the roots, or they let you just go and tell us what you see?
I mean, I have two of the eldest. They married Khmer's as well. So um, my eldest encourages the children to learn Khmer as well. And my nieces and nephews are learning a bit of Khmer. So they're putting them into school. They're trying to keep the language going. But I think the children also have that disconnection with, you know, the two cultures as well. So, but living here, I think for them, they're happy in Australia, and that's their safe spot. I can't picture any of them coming to live in Asia, but yeah, I think I'm the first one to really make that move. Yeah,
But have they been to Cambodia
they have. Yeah,
without your parents
yes,
coming like a family?
a few of them have, and then the younger ones have just come with the parents. So yeah, I'm not sure what their perception of it is yet, but I think now that when they're watching, they're actually realizing, hey, it's not that bad. Especially my younger ones, the younger brothers. Yeah.
With your experience, you've been here for 2 months, you have a lot of experience. Of course, you make videos. Maybe, okay, you want to move back to Australia or you just want to travel to Australia. What would you say that you've learned in Cambodia that you will apply?
What do we?
Like something that you've picked in Cambodia that when you go back to Australia, you will apply this to your life there.
Just the way that I live my life, um, appreciating a lot of things more. Uh, just being simple, having that simple life and not always chasing the money as well. You know, I thought having a full-time job and having a career, I thought that was it. But I think for me is I'd rather have little money, spend little, than to have more money and spend more. And what Cambodia has taught me is a lot of patience. Things will happen when it happens, and just being patient as well and being thankful of what you do have. Yeah, it's taught me a lot in that sense. What I used to be upset about in Australia is nothing. I think, why would I be upset about that? There's things happening in the world that are, you know, much more of a bigger scale. And it's opened up my eyes a lot to what life really is and the reality of life beyond 9 to 5. Like I said, I thought having that dream job and having permanent job was everything, having that nice car, but we come here and we have just a scooter and we fill it up for $3 a week. We wear the same clothes with the same 5 outfits, and we're happy. Yeah.
Do you have any interesting culture shocks? For sure, you will have like a culture shocks, something like shocks you or any interesting moment that you feel like, wow.
For me, I love animals and I love being sustainable. So for me, the biggest thing is seeing things like rubbish being burnt, the pollution. But I feel like the other day in Simbrio, we were walking around the schools, and the next generation is what's changing it. The schools, the classes were picking up rubbish with the kids, and I spoke to some of the locals, and I asked about, you know, how is it now with rubbish and littering, and they said that they're really trying to teach the new generations about you know, picking up after yourself. The other day, our taxi driver said, the children now, like his 9-year-old son would put rubbish in his bag now, and him as a father sometimes forgets that it's in his bag, and, you know, 10 days later he would have to take it out. But the kids are learning those just little things that, you know, my parents wouldn't have known growing up. You just put it on the ground, and yeah. So for me, the culture shock was just the rubbish, or the animals just roaming around, and you can't save every cat that you see. Yeah, that's a big thing, like getting used to the nature here. You know, being from concrete jungles in a city to just seeing animals that are not in a zoo. Yeah, yeah, it's a different lifestyle.
How about the slow life pace and the driving here compared to Australia?
Oh, the driving. There's a lot of road rage in Australia. Even for me, I don't have patience if I'm sitting at a red light. But here, if they cut you off, there's no beeping. You just let them go. Well, I'm not the driver, I'm the passenger princess, so Gabriel drives, but yeah, everything works out. Everyone goes from A to B, but there's no beeping, there's no yelling at each other. Yeah, it's still crazy for me. I'm still going like that.
Were you like maybe at first, were you like angry? Why is this happening?
Oh yeah, I used to think, why is there no rules and why is this not developed? But you know, this is their country. This is how they've worked. So I'm coming into Cambodia, into their country. I'm happy just to live around their rules. Yeah. But you still hear foreigners say, oh, he was supposed to give way. Why didn't he give way? And then in our head, we're going, oh, he's a new tourist. He hasn't got used to it yet.
And no one is honking here, no fighting. Where?
Yeah. No one getting out of the car.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think one of the most culture shocks that I've had from the airport to my hotel the first times, like I noticed that the traffic was heavy and no one is shouting, no one is honking, no one is talking to it. Even if you make mistake, they will just let you pass and they will go their way, you know.
Yeah.
Like, oh,
Yeah.
new experience.
Yeah.
But that was cool. It's like, okay, I'm learning how they work now, because compared to my country, it's like we fight, come down, we fight. If you drive anyhow, We wind down and tell you to go and park that car. You are not supposed to be on the road, you know. So here it's like, okay, easy, easy, everybody go their ways. Like, okay, okay, we go like that. And sometimes I'm more like local now when I drive.
Yeah.
I drive like that and then okay.
Yeah. That's another thing. In Australia, when we were growing up, we could leave our doors unlocked, and then we can have my parents' friends would come all the way to the garden at the back, and it would feel safe. But as I was growing up, as we were getting older, we had to lock all the doors. We got burgled maybe 2 or 3 times, and we'd always lock. If you forget to lock the door and you've left the house 5 minutes, you have to come back and lock the door. So here, our neighbors were laughing at us because they go, "You're locking the doors?" And we said, "Oh yeah, we don't need to lock out because we're in a safe area. You don't need to lock our doors." So it's the habit of feeling like, oh, something's going to happen. So we're still learning that it is really safe. And our neighbors said they haven't locked their doors in 10 years and it's safe. Yeah.
Is there any Khmer culture you learned from your parents growing up that helps you, returning to Cambodia, that helps you in your returning to Cambodia?
Um, just being respectful and understanding. I think that taught me a lot about, being kind to people, and people are kind back as well. Yeah, I think that's what I love that about the Khmer culture. They're just so kind. And being here, being a foreigner coming here, they've been so kind back.
Are you planning to get the Cambodian citizenship?
Yeah.
You're working on it now?
Yes, working on it. So I thought it is quite easy actually, but the papers that we have is the refugee papers. So I thought a copy would be enough, but I have to go back to Australia to get the original refugee papers that have the dates. They said that I just come back and show them that, my birth certificates with my parents' names. And then, yeah, we're hoping to come and buy some property here as well in Cambodia. I thought it would be difficult because the only paperwork we have was the refugee papers, but they said that's enough. And then I got my birth certificate. But I know that a lot of the older children that are trying are saying they don't have a birth certificate. I think that's the struggle if you don't have a birth certificate of your own. But if you can prove that there is a parent that was born in Cambodia, it could be an auntie that lives here or a sibling. There's a few different processes, but it's not as hard as I thought it was originally.